Futures trading involves a substantial risk of loss and may not be suitable for all investors. Therefore, carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you in light of your financial condition.
Yesterday, we had 3 out of the 4 metals. They broke down. Silver lost its trend line. Copper lost the neckline. Platinum invalidated the wedge. But October gold here, one of the contracts, and one of the things I suggest you look at, anytime you look at any different product out there, you really want to look across the spectrum of the different months, because something like July soybeans versus November soybeans, July corn versus December corn, they paint a lot different picture. That's why we've flagged things like crude oil, the July crude oil contract versus December, looking at that higher for longer theme. So you really want to look across the board when you're looking at different commodity markets. So looking at the price action here, the FOMC minutes are going to drop at 1 p.m. Eastern, and by today's close here, we'll see if today's price action can rescue some of these technical pictures or if prices are setting up for another leg lower. So I'm Phil Streible, Chief Market Strategist at Blue Line Futures, Metals Minute, episode 663. So checking on the precious metals overnight, small recovery going on across the board. You got platinum making some new highs in this overnight session here, just ticking up here a bit. You do have the silver contract up about 92 cents. You have June gold 44.98, trying to recapture that 4,500 mark here. So overnight high 45.12, overnight low 44.55, still hugging above some of those key structural support. Now I'll outline those few different levels here, the 4 primary levels in the metals market here as we push on here. So looking at the ETF flows, they did add some of on the gold market, 59,000 ounces here. Silver futures, again, the high of the overnight session, 76.02, low 73.39 here. Modest bounce off that 73.39 here. It's $2.98 above that 73 structural binary level that we've been looking at here. But yesterday's close here down at 74.08 really broke some of the rising trend line, and the tape felt just a bit heavy here. So you saw the ETFs, they cut about 918,000 troy ounces of silver yesterday. Now the gold silver ratio continues to compressed right around that 59-1, and the copper futures here bouncing back after breaking down below that head and shoulders, that neckline there. That's a critical level you want to watch here, is that 620 level. Classic failed breakdown retest here, so it closes back above that 620 level. Some of the bears, they'll most likely get shaken out here. You reject that level here and you start coming down, it could get that measured move where we start to see $6, $5.85, $5.65 all start to come into play here as far as the sell-off on the metals markets, on the copper market. Now, some of the fundamentals, aside from the technicals here, paint a much different picture. Some of the demand, some of the AI, the infrastructure demand, a lot of the sulfuric acid coming offline, a lot of the mining capacity being strained here in the output as well, and that has a ripple effect on the silver market. Now, looking at your cross asset picture, and this is what I've been telling you, just look at this every day. Take a look at energy stocks. Energies here getting hammered. You got the July crude oil down about 268. You got September down $1.96, December down $1.23, sitting at 83.50. So the July contract still over that $101 level. So you look at natural gas, that's another thing. Throw that up on your chart here. Just real interesting that it's come down, kind of built this base here, started to poke up, a little bit of a breakout on natural gas. Not a specific recommendation, just a chart to throw up on your different platforms here. And then you look at yields, you got that higher for longer with the rising inflation, but taking a small breather overnight. 4.63 on the 10-year yield sitting right there, and then it's compressing here. Still elevated here. The macro story still compressing some of the metals. You want to watch here 1 p.m. Eastern. You might get any kind of like hawkish surprise coming out from the FOMC. Now, we do have that regime change taken with Warsh coming in, Powell stepping out here. So we'll see if there's any kind of reaction. And then you go to the FX, the dollar, just a bit firmer, 99.31. You do have the British pound sitting right around 134, and you have the euro currency at 116.15, just slightly weaker. No big red flags there. And you go to the equities here ahead of the open, snapping back after yesterday's sell-off here. You're digesting that backdrop of the surging rate volatility, the positioning for the FOMC minutes. You're looking at NVIDIA tomorrow here. You had that risk-off session here, getting just a modest reprieve. So the S&P 500 up 24, sitting at 7,400. Critical level support is really that 7,350 level. Bounce above there, we could extend on up to about 74.80 in my opinion. Now you look at the Europe and Asia stocks. Well, the European stocks, they recovered those early losses here, and then Asian tradies, they fell for the fourth straight session here, heading for its longest losing streak here in nearly 2 months. It's really the chip stocks are dropping, bonds are selling off here on the inflation concerns, with the MSCI Asia Pacific Index declining 1.4%. You got Nvidia here, really that's the focus on tomorrow's print here. And then other commodities on the radar here. You do have grains, they're getting sold off just a bit here this morning. They've really seen quite a bit of momentum coming to the market. A lot of the traders rotating into some of the agricultural markets here. You get the crypto, you get a small bounce going on in Bitcoin here, really decoupling from some of the equity weakness that we saw here yesterday. You got Ether following Bitcoin higher here. And then you had Target earnings come out earlier today. You have TJ Maxx, you have Lowe's. So really it's the retail in focus before the market opens here, and it's that consumer health here that's driving everything. So as far as economic data, nothing really coming out here. What I'll be paying attention to is those crude oil inventories, the FOMC minutes. You will have one Fed speaker coming out, and then taking a closer look at the metals. It's the four primary levels you want to look at on gold: 4,400, silver $73, copper $620, and platinum $1,800. So if you guys have any questions, you want to open up a futures trading account, a lot of people coming in, diving into this price action here. Remember, they do have mini, micro contracts, half-size contracts, everything out there in the contract months. The duration goes out quite far. So again, you have any questions or you want to see the precious metals chart back here, specifically that one revolves around charts and charting and the key levels here, not much of the narratives whatsoever. So if you're really a nuts and bolts charts person, this is the report that you got to watch. So I'm Phil Streible, Chief Market Strategist at Blue Line Futures. And remember, futures and option trading does involve risk of loss, may not be suitable to all investors. Good luck, good trading.
Futures trading involves a substantial risk of loss and may not be suitable for all investors. Therefore, carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you in light of your financial condition.